I've been living here in Vlorë, Albania for about a year now, and there's so much about it that I absolutely love. Next week I'll talk about some of the worst parts, but this week, let's talk about some of the best parts about life here in Albania for a US expat. Living expenses. People move away from their home countries for all sorts of reasons, but when I talk to US expats here in Albania, they all have one thing in common. They're looking for a lower cost of living. If you're coming from a Western country, the prices here can be extremely appealing. The apartment that we stayed at before we bought this place was really nice. It was a newly renovated one bedroom in a brand new building within walking distance of everything that we needed. We were paying 450 euros a month for that. After the conversion, that's about $520. That is unheard of in the US right now for anything like that. If you could find something in that price range in the US, it wouldn't be new, and it definitely wouldn't be in a walkable area. When we first set up our utilities, I was shocked. It was gonna be like 60 bucks a month for both our electric and our water. And then I set up our internet, it was gonna be like $15 a month. Keep in mind that some things will cost more. I can look back at previous budgets and I can see that our food budget is pretty comparable to what it was in the US. But overall, our living expenses are substantially lower. Let me know in the comments if you want to see me break down our living expenses in another video. Walkability. If you've been watching my content, then you probably heard me say this before, but I cannot stop talking about how much I love living in a walkable city. I spent my whole life living in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and car ownership is basically required in that part of the world. The headaches and costs of owning and maintaining a car compound over time. It's hard on your body and it destroys your ability to save. I average 6,000 steps a day here. Sometimes I walk as much as 20,000 steps in a day. Any kind of errand I have, I walk. If it's too far to walk, I take a bus. I've lost weight, I feel great. I get more sunshine than I've ever gotten at any other point in my life. People underestimate the damage that car ownership causes to their health and their wallets. Some days it may rain, or I might wish that I could get more than a couple of bags of groceries at a time, but generally I am extremely happy to be living without a car, and I'm never going back. Speaking of groceries, let's talk about access to food. When I lived in the States, grocery shopping was an ordeal. It's loud, crowded, and people often have no spatial awareness inside a grocery store. I can't tell you how many times I've been walking through a main aisle of a Walmart and the person in front of me literally just stops walking. They come to a complete halt so they could stare at their phone or look at something. Sometimes people would literally stop as they're exiting the building. It's so frustrating. I basically never encounter that here. There's a few reasons for that. First of all, produce is mostly sold from produce stands. Just simple setups outside with all the staples. There's butcher shops for meat and there's bakeries for bread products. There are some general stores, but they're usually a lot smaller. With all the separation, you just don't see the huge crowds that you might see at like a Walmart, for example. If you do see a rush, it's usually pretty small and it's only during the busier times of day. But living without a car, I rarely make a trip out just to go grocery shopping. I usually just stop into stores as I'm already out to grab a bag or two. I've never lived like this and I never really even thought about it, but now that I've experienced it, I absolutely love it. It makes way more sense. Large expat community. When we first arrived and walked around the city, it didn't take very long to start hearing people speaking English, and often with a Western accent. After a little bit of investigating, we found several Facebook groups and local hangouts where expats would often gather. We didn't pick Vlorë for that reason, but now that we're here, it's amazing. When it comes to anything from finding a dentist to tracking down your favorite US delicacy, the expat community here has been very helpful. I just assumed that this is what it was like to live outside the country, but sometimes I'll talk to nomads or vacationers that'll pass through and they'll explain to me that this kind of community is pretty rare. You don't usually find so many Americans all living so close together like this. And it seems like it's only growing. It's funny, now that I'm here for my second spring, I'm seeing a whole new generation of people coming. People are retiring here, people are opening businesses. Really feels like a big familial community that's developing. Minimal bureaucracy, relatively. Ever heard the word Kafkaesque? It's a word I used to think a lot about in the US. Few things grind my gears as bad as red tape. If you want to do just about anything in the US, you're looking at paperwork, fees, and delays. Emigrating to the US has become a virtual impossibility. It's becoming hard just to visit. When we first started looking for other places in the world to live, Albania was often at the top of the list because it was basically one of the only places that would allow a US citizen to stay for a year, no questions asked. That's basically unheard of anywhere else in the world right now. The only other place that you can do that I'm aware of is Georgia. Not only can you come here for a year, but then you can leave for 90 days and come back, and theoretically you could just repeat that process indefinitely. If you want to apply for residency, there are several accessible paths. You have everything from a retirement visa to a business visa to a digital nomad visa. From my experience, if you want residency here, you can get it, and seemingly much more easily than just about anywhere else in the world. Albania is trying to join the European Union, so there's a possibility that an Albanian citizenship can get you access to an EU passport. It's not guaranteed, and it may take a while, but it's an interesting and appealing future to think about. Friendliness of the locals. This one's really funny to me. I just covered some culture shock issues in my last video. You can see that here. In that video, I talk about how expats will often talk about the customer service not seeming very warm here because people don't like to smile. While that's true, you'll often find that when an Albanian person has decided to help you, they'll really commit to seeing you through your problem, and they might go above and beyond. I've heard people talk about the friendliness of their cab drivers, for example, really showing them around a city or helping them to find their accommodations. Our landlords at our first rental were extremely friendly. They would often come to pick up the rent with the whole family, and then they would give us gifts like we got olive oil, for example, freshly squeezed. I guess it's pressed. You don't squeeze olive oil. Occasionally I'll be sitting at the cafe and a local will walk in and they'll be so excited to interact with so many English speakers. This is one of those things where your mileage may vary. It's not as if every person that you meet is going to be extremely cordial and helpful, but when they are, they really, really are. Public transit. I spent a good part of my early adult life living in Arlington, Texas. It was and still is considered one of the largest cities in the US without public transit. And it's not just Arlington. Most of the places that I lived around the Dallas-Fort Worth area had no public transit. And if it did, it was extremely limited. I didn't really experience riding a city bus for the first time until I came here to Vlorë. It was genuinely mind-blowing. It's so frustrating that the US can't seem to make progress with public transit, but I got tired of waiting. The buses here are old, and they're not necessarily the most timely, and there are not a lot of them, but for the equivalent of about 50 cents a ride, I mean, you can't beat it. In addition to the city buses, there's a bus system that travels in between the cities too. It's also not perfect, but just to have the option is really, really nice. The views. What can I say about this one? I mean, just look at it. A view is never really something I prioritize, but now that I have it, it's pretty nice. This area has been especially great because we have the mountain on one side and then the sea on the other. 300 days of sunshine with a Mediterranean climate? Sign me up. I could see why this is becoming a popular US expat destination. It reminds me of parts of Florida or Hawaii. I'm super excited to spend my second summer here and start working on my tan at the beach. Coffee culture. I've been a coffee drinker most of my life, but I never really appreciated what an actual coffee culture was like. Coffee bars are everywhere here and they're always full. I'm literally writing the script for this video in a coffee bar right now. Now, the quality of the coffee is not always great. You might have to look for the good stuff, but I promise if you do, it's out there. If you want my recommendation of Vlorë, I'm always going to refer you to Cafe 1912. Say hi to Tony and Kendall for me. What about you? What are some of your favorite things about living in Albania? And if you're not living here yet, what are you looking forward to? Keep in mind, it's no paradise. Don't forget, next week, I'll tell you the worst parts about living here. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I'm super happy to be here. If you enjoyed this, make sure to like and subscribe. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the QR code here, or you can look for the link for Buy Me a Coffee in the description. Check out this next video to see what life's like in the Balkans for a US expat. See you next week.